What's going on, everybody? It's Rich Perez welcoming you back into another weekly dose of the rundown. Of course.
I could even hear the claps this time.
Oh man, that's not good. Of course, Jordan, as always, my co-host all the way from the U, my brother from another Kayson Davis. How you doing, Kay?
Good, I'm doing good. How you doing this week?
I'm doing all right, man. Can't complain. Can't complain. It's been an interesting week. A lot of things have happened, but that's why we're in the business that we're in. Man, let me start off this show a little different. Congratulations to my co-host Kayson Davis, who is about to graduate in a few weeks from the University of Miami. Let's get those hand claps going again, man.
I appreciate it. When you first said that, I was like, "What is he congratulating me for?" I don't think I did anything.
It was a long and tough road, but it's finally here. How you feeling, man?
I'm feeling good. By this point, people are kind of a little tired of school, so I think I have my fun with school a little bit. Gonna see how the job field works out.
I feel that. I definitely feel that. So all congratulations in place for my man K.
Appreciate
So
it.
the NFL draft is coming up. Before we start getting into this thing, have you been hearing anything? Any talks, any thoughts? What's going on?
Uh, I don't think I've heard anything new. Kind of just what we talked about last weekend and things like that when we talk about the NFL draft.
Well, we know what the first two picks are looking like. That's kind of been the worst kept secret in the world. Trevor Lawrence is going to go number one overall to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Uh, BYU quarterback Zach Wilson will be going number two overall to the New York Jets. And then, we talked about it last week how the San Francisco 49ers made this trade up all the way to 3, zero in on this quarterback. And apparently, supposedly, it's hard to believe, it's Mac Jones, national champion quarterback for the Alabama Crimson Tide. And a lot of people are questioning that. I can agree with that, like we talked about last week. But, with the pro days of Justin Fields and Trey Lance now out of the ways, it's kind of like, well, maybe they'll go with one of these two guys. And we've already talked a lot about who fits more into what they do and what's the more talented quarterback here. Now it's just a matter of what they do. Here's some interesting stuff that came out today, however. Justin Fields, who's we know how talented Justin Fields is. He came out today and said that he's been actually managing dealing with epilepsy, brain disorder that actually causes a person to have seizures. It actually runs in his family, but it hasn't affected him so much in football activities. And his doctors actually believe that he'll be able to outgrow this because his symptoms seem to have been getting weaker over time. So when you hear this, do you think that maybe this is something that's made his draft stock plummet a little bit?
Now as you say it, maybe possibly because football is a sport, a contact sport, obviously, and a sport that other people have had brain issues develop from getting hit so much in the head and just getting hit in general and things like that. So if he's kind of already having like maybe those type of issues, maybe that is something where people feel like maybe he won't be able to get as long as a career as possible. So they may be looking at it as a with him getting hit on the head, that's obviously not going to help the case. So they figured that maybe they're thinking like I said, he might not be able to get that as long as his career as maybe some of these other quarterbacks are going to be, and that may become a problem down the line. So I can see that being the reason why his stock may be dropping a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. But I think when you consider in the fact of obviously we know what the talent is and what the doctors are saying, and look at a team like the San Francisco 49ers, who already have Jimmy Garoppolo and say that they're going to continue to move forward with him as their starting quarterback for now. I still think that would be a good situation for him where he's just going to come in and he's going to be sitting. So I don't think that this is something that's going to necessarily hold him back based on what the doctors are saying. I think he's actually an inspiration. I actually have a close friend of mine who's dealing with this right now, and to hear that you can live with this and be able to manage it and possibly outgrow it. That's definitely something. Like when I read that today, that was definitely something that was good to hear.
Yeah, definitely. If they say he can outgrow it, and it can, and it's been his family, so it's something that it's been kind of they've been dealing with for a little while. So at this point, you say he's outgrown, and they kind of know how to deal with it to hopefully get it better. So that is obviously a positive too. But like I was saying, with it being like a contact sport and other people having developing brain damage and brain issues from kind of just being hit in the head and stuff like that, I can see why a team would be a little concerned. Obviously, like you said, the things you said are all positive signs, and you hope that you hope that things work out for the best. But there's maybe, obviously, I don't know because I'm not a doctor, but there's maybe a chance where like him getting hit on the head maybe makes it worse. And obviously, he's been playing football all his life, so if it's been getting better, maybe not. But you know how those type of things go with high draft picks. At this point, people start to kind of nitpick a little bit. So I can see teams like nitpicking at that and thinking like, okay, this may cause him to have to maybe retire early. So maybe we'll end up taking someone who could play, won't have those issues maybe. So I can see that being a thing.
Yeah, I do want to get into Trevor Lawrence, the presumptive number one overall pick, made some comments in a Sports Illustrated article, and he actually was his high school coach and his father kind of backed it up as well as far as he came out and said he's not the type of guy, and I'm paraphrasing here, but he's not the type of guy to really play with a chip on his shoulders. And his like I said, his father and high school coach kind of backed that up. First thing here is like red flags. This isn't a guy that you want leading your team. Is he trying to get out of being the first overall pick? And shout out to ESPN's own Peter Rosenberg. He was like the first person who said he thought that this was just nothing. Like, it's a little overreaction from people, and maybe he's just saying like, he's just not one of those guys. Like, kind of like maybe I'll liken it a little bit, not too much, but a little bit to Anthony Edwards and the comments that he was coming out with the week leading into the NBA draft. But maybe it's just like he's accomplished so much and done so much. Why does he need to be the guy to play with a chip on his shoulders or anything like that when he hasn't been put in a situation like that? You know what I mean? So that was one, and then he kind of clarified it and basically said what I kind of said. But also 3 days ago, he put out a tweet, because he just got married. So he put out a tweet thanking the Jacksonville Jaguars fans for wedding gifts and saying he hopes to be a part of their community soon. So with all of that in mind, Kay, when you hear all of this stuff, what are you thinking?
Well, I guess the chip on the shoulder thing can kind of go either way. We've seen people perform or go out there and like take Michael Jordan for example. He always found little things to kind of keep him motivated to have a chip on his shoulder and just go out there and continue to dominate. So it could be an issue maybe down the line, but like you said, he's maybe not been in that situation yet, and he's been able to win at a high level right now. So it's obviously not been an issue so far. Obviously now in the NFL, you're gonna maybe play a little more games and longer seasons and things like that, and you're gonna be playing multiple seasons in the same league and things. So you got to find ways to keep you motivated and things like that. So it could maybe become an issue down the line. Like you said, right now, he hasn't had to deal with it. So we'll see how it goes when maybe some adversity hits him or something like that. And then we'll see if maybe he wants to change those comments later on down the line. And as far as the Jacksonville thing, obviously, like we've been saying, the first two picks are kind of out there already. And him going to Jacksonville since it's been decided that they had to pick. It's kind of been maybe one of the worst kept secrets. So I'm not too surprised. Them sending them some wedding gifts this early is kind of funny. It's interesting that he replied though, but I'm not too surprised by it.
Right. Let's get into this here, man. With the number one, I don't think there's ever been we've had drafts where like it's been like we're talking about a bunch of quarterbacks going in the first round and draft like the draft with Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, Josh Allen, and Lamar Jackson. That was a big quarterback draft, but those guys didn't go like back to back to back. Like Baker Mayfield went number one, Saquon Barkley was a running back. He went 2. And then Sam Darnold went 3. I think Josh Allen went 5th. Josh Rosen went like 11 or 12. And then Lamar Jackson was at the end of the first round. So what my point is saying is there's never, I don't think there's ever been, and you've got the Marino, Elway drafts and things like that, but there's never been a draft where we're talking about quarterbacks being your first 3 to 4 picks, like back to back. Like, and it makes me think, because when you draft high, you're drafting a franchise guy that you expect to represent you for the next like decade or so. And at quarterback, you're expecting to have a decade plus career there. And usually it doesn't. Not every guy is going to be a franchise guy. So when you think of Trevor Lawrence, Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, and Trey Lance, is it possible that all these guys? Because what's looking like right now is we're gonna have three quarterbacks go back to back to back. Do we expect these guys to all work out?
I guess do we expect all of them to work out with the team that they get drafted by?
Just period.
I think there's a chance. Obviously, there's a possibility for everything. I think there's a chance that all of them can work out, but early on, I think one or two of them, or definitely one or maybe two of them, are going to have to. It's not going to work out for them early on. Now, later on in their career, maybe they'll figure it out after maybe switching from one team to another team or something like that. But I don't think all 3 quarterbacks are going to come out kind of right out the gate and seem like, oh, these are the guys for the next 10 years or so. I think one or two of them will eventually, hopefully, maybe get it together. But if I had to pick, maybe one or two of them will work out. And like I said, maybe the last one or two of them will have to kind of work out maybe eventually, or kind of maybe not work out at all. So I think it's possible it could happen, but I don't think like right away that's going to be the case. Definitely.
Who do you think is going to be the superstar of this draft? Like, who's going to have the best career quarterbacks wise out of all of these guys that we're talking about right
now? That is a very good question. I don't know. I think it's up in the air right now. Obviously, when you're a high draft pick, each team are kind of maybe not great teams right now. So it's really, to me, it depends on how their teams and their franchises are gonna shape their team around them and get the players around them. So I think it's kind of maybe in a sense less on them in a sense a little bit, and kind of what the teams would kind of be able to do around them. Now, I guess if we're just talking about maybe individual performances, I'm going to have to go with Lawrence. Obviously, he's going to be the number 1 pick, and we see what he was able to do at Clemson, leading them to, I believe they got a national championship over there while he's there. So leading them to a national championship and things like that. So obviously, I think if I had to pick one of them, it'd be him. I think he's obviously the number 1 pick for a reason.
Yeah, well, I think Trevor Lawrence is probably going to have the most pressure on him out of everybody. He's making comparisons of the likes of Andrew Luck and Peyton Manning, once in the generation talent. This guy's supposed to be the future of the league, face of the league, things like that. Transformational when it comes to what he can do for your franchise. And oh, by the way, he's playing for one of the greatest college coaches of all time, Urban Meyer. So that I think he's going to have the most pressure in there. But I will say, I agree with the point of what organizations are able to do around these guys. Organizations really build careers. A lot. It's funny because I heard this about Sam Darnold today. Sam Darnold making a lot of comparisons to Eli Manning, and being able to handle the pressures of playing in New York. The downside of it was he played for the Jets, and the Jets just never put a good foundation around him, and they didn't put anything around him to build around it. Because of that, a lot of people look at it and say, well, he's not a bust. He was just dealt a really bad hand, and we're going to see just how good he is now that he's over in Carolina. I think depending on I think if a guy like Justin Fields ended up in San Francisco with his skill set and what they already have over there, he might be the best quarter. He might be the best have the best career out of any of the quarterbacks there. And it would be fitting because him and I think I made this point a while back, as far as this consensus that no one's near Trevor Lawrence. Him and Trevor Lawrence since high school have been neck and neck. You know, it was a really bad situation, which led to him leaving Georgia. But he's played the best competition while being at Ohio State, playing in the Big Ten, and he's passed every test. Don't get me wrong. There's been times where he didn't look great, but he never lost a game while playing in the Big Ten. So I think it would definitely be kind of poetic justice if that were to happen. But I think him definitely with his skill set, if San Francisco does what everybody thinks they should do, that might be it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, it's gonna depend on what the teams will be able to put around those guys. I think that's kind of like who end up having the better career, but one of them might have end up being like a better player in a sense. You kind of get what I'm saying. Like one might have a better career, but one might have better like statistics and things that's like a quarterback. If you're talking about just quarterbacks, kind of head to head. So the career thing is kind of going to be like you said, just what team is going to be able to put the right pieces around them, or which one of these quarterbacks fall to the right team that kind of maybe has some pieces around it and things like that. So that the career thing is going to depend on kind of the franchises.
Right. Before we get out of the NFL draft, I got two questions here. And for my people watching, following along, you guys can obviously ask along with your and maybe bring up your analysis on this draft if you want to. Who's the first skill position that's going to go? Jamar Chase or Kyle Pitts, the tight end out of Florida, who people are saying is a gold jacket guy, might be one of the greatest tight ends to ever do it. That's my first question. And if you're a team looking for a skill position later on, in that bottom part of the top 10, top 15, you got the chance to draft Heisman winner Devontae Smith or his teammate Jalen Waddle. Who are you taking?
All right. I guess to start off with your first question, obviously I think the tight end pitch that you were talking about may be the skilled position player to kind of go first. I think like you said, a lot of people think he's obviously the best tight end in the draft and things like that. So I think all those will be working out for him. So I think he may go. And then for the other question, obviously I think with him winning the Heisman, I don't know. It can kind of go either way. I think with him winning the Heisman kind of helps him a little bit. So I think maybe if it comes down to him or his teammate, obviously winning the Heisman is a big thing. I think that may help him and maybe the reason why he'll get drafted a little earlier than his teammate.
Now, that is true, but I think his size, like they say, size matters. Devontae Smith is still, a very small wide receiver. Obviously, he's fast and he's great, but Jalen Waddle, I think his shortcomings was he dealt with some injuries, and people are asking if he's fully healed from that, which I don't think matters because we got a ways to go before the NFL season comes back around anyway. I think for me, I'd probably take Jalen Waddle over Devontae Smith, and some people might kill me for that, but I think it's strictly based on we didn't get to see his full production. They're both great, but we didn't get to see his full production, and the size on Devontae Smith definitely scares me a little bit. As far as Pitts and Jamar Chase go, I think Pitts is probably the guy you would rather go with. You can kind of do anything with him on offense if he's like that. He's like a Swiss Army knife kind of skilled player, I guess. You can have him run out of the backfield. You can have him line up on the outside, line up at tight end, whatever. So I think that would be the guy. But also, it's going to come down to who's picking. Because you could have a team like Detroit, who just traded for Goff, and now they got to get weapons over there. They might try and go after one of those two, and be careful with this one now because everybody says the Cincinnati Bengals need a lineman to keep Joe Burrow upright, and I agree with that. But Joe Burrow's played at LSU with Jamar Chase, won a national championship with Jamar Chase. Those guys had an amazing connection when they played together, and word around the street is he's definitely advocating for the organization to draft Jamar Chase so they could reunite. So I think it's definitely going to come down to which one of those teams is picking first. But I agree with Pitts. I don't necessarily agree on the Devontae Smith, Jalen Waddle thing here.
Yeah, I can see your point. Yeah, I guess it could kind of go either way. I think with any draft, it's kind of goes about who's picking because obviously each team are going to be looking for different players and need different fits that go along with their team. So obviously, like I said, with most drafts, it kind of depends on who's picking. But I was just thinking like who I think would probably come off the board first, not even kind of thinking about which team is going to be which. I just figured in those situations, those two guys maybe come off first, just kind of for what they kind of did and things like that.
Right on, right on. Let's switch to hoops now. I hope you guys are ready for this one. I know I got some loyalists in here, man.
The New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. We are the New York Knicks. Go New York, go New York, go.
Enough of that. The New York Knicks have gone 7 in a row. 7 in a row. 7 wins in a row would have made that 7 in a row with a win over the Charlotte Hornets last night. They're currently playing the Atlanta Hawks right now. A win, an 8th win in a row would mean that the New York Knicks have taken sole possession of 4th place in the Eastern Conference. Yeah, I see it. 7, looking for 8. Finally got somebody in here. Great. Now, let's chalk this thing up real quick. They do not have a roster any different than last year. The only difference is Derrick Rose. And Derrick Rose definitely has been very productive for them. We talked a lot about Julius Randle and how he has become night and day last year to this year. Knicks fans couldn't stand the sight of him, wanted to get rid of him a year ago. This year, they love him. He's the franchise guy with an all-star this year. Shout out to my younger brother, Tony, who actually pointed this out. And I don't know why honestly, it's crazy to me that we never even thought of this. Julius Randle should win Most Improved Player of the Year. Like, that shouldn't even be a debate.
Yeah, definitely. I could agree with that. I've seen some Knicks fans saying that he's better than Porzingis. Is saying that it's funny how it worked out that he's better than Porzingis, and he's only a year older, so that's funny. And I mean, obviously off the top of my head, I think actually no, Jordan Collections I think is in the running for 6th Man of the Year. Yeah, I can see that. I don't really know who else would be up there right now. Obviously, Julius Randle had a couple good years, like right before he came to the Knicks. So yeah, I could definitely see that. I don't have no other complaint or anyone else that I can think of off the top of my head right now. So I could see that.
I mean, most def, but also, like, look, T Negron says right now, it's coaching. Like, I think, I don't know if I had mentioned this before, but, because Julius Randle kind of mentioned this. Like, they just wanted to be coached. Like, and some coaches, this goes all around in different leagues. Some coaches just aren't meant to be head coaches. You could be a great assistant. You could be a great coordinator, but it just never works out for you as a head coach. I think that was David Fizdale. David Fizdale is a great bench guy. He's proven kind of twice now that, head coaching just wasn't it for him. Tibbs, and we mentioned this before, Tibbs has been great in all his stops. Those Chicago teams, if it wasn't for injuries, maybe they would have made an NBA Finals. The Minnesota Timberwolves, the last time they made the playoffs, Tibbs was the coach. And he's a New York guy. I think that kind of gets overlooked a lot because we talk a lot about how the Knicks needed to be led by a New York guy. Tibbs is a New York guy. He brings that grittiness with his being a defensive-minded head coach. And his fingerprints are all over this team right now. I do want to talk about another guy that I think people kind of get on a little bit, but has definitely surged the last few times now. RJ Barrett, he didn't the last half, it's not the last half. First half of the game yesterday, he did not play the greatest. And he just kind of came into his own that second half, ended up scoring 24 to finish the game. Derrick Rose talked a little bit about it and said, he's a guy that kind of gets in his head a little bit. He has to talk to him and just kind of let him flow. He was the 3rd overall pick for a reason. We talked a lot about, what he was in high school, because a lot of people tend to forget this. Zion Williamson was not the guy we were talking about pre-Duke. We were told the entire nation was talking about RJ Barrett. And obviously Zion got to college and it turned into a whole thing. Can RJ Barrett, who the Knicks drafted third overall, be the face of this franchise?
Uh, I mean, that's what they're hoping. He's shown, obviously, I think we brought it up last week, that he's getting better and he's improving and he has the willingness to take the last shot. Obviously, with guys like Derrick Rose, Tibbs over there now helping him, those guys are just going to help him kind of get there. But I could see it, obviously. Like you said, he was the number one player in the nation for a reason in high school. Obviously, now in college, Zion came and just kind of stole the show. And a lot of people thought he was too dominant with his left hand, but I think he's getting a lot better with everything. I think he could be that player eventually, as long as things kind of keep going the way it is right now. Now, obviously, they want to keep winning, but even if it's not winning, like I said, they gotta need the right guys around him, like Derrick Rose, veterans who can kind of teach him the game and things like that. And then people like Tibbs, like you said, that's gonna coach them and force him to get better and force him to play defense and do the right things, all the things that great star players do. So I think he can be there. He definitely has the talent, being the number one player in the nation before. So the talent's always been there. It's just, you know how I feel about it. Sometimes it takes a couple year or two or something for you to kind of figure out how the NBA goes, the travel life, and then having those good veterans on you like that. So I think he could be that player for them. And I think he's shown it a little bit here. I think his willingness to take that last shot is something that they definitely need, and definitely shows that he can be that player, make or miss, and he's willing to kind of take the heat that comes with taking that shot if you miss it or if you make it. So I think that's one good sign for him right now, and just from here, it's about improving and soaking things up like a sponge and learning from those older guys and learning from those coaches and taking everything that he knows. And also Steve Nash, obviously he's a head coach now, but Steve Nash is his godfather, I believe. So also still learning from him and then taking all that and taking every offseason to get better, to work on your game. So that's kind of what the greats did. Every offseason they worked on something and came back better. So he has to also do that. So take everything he learns from this year, wrap that all up, and then hit the drawing board again this offseason and kind of build off of it every offseason.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Steve Nash. I was actually going to mention him myself. He comes from a great foundation already, you know, as far as how his dad groomed him growing up. Steve Nash is his godfather. And I think the other thing that needs to be noted when it comes to him and the New York Knicks, and I know Knicks fans know this, a lot of people who follow the Knicks have kind of said this, the Knicks really needed a guy who, you know, is going to want to play, not obviously be able to handle New York, but a guy that wants to be a Knick. Like when he got drafted to the Knicks, after his press conference was over, like he was excited, like he wanted the Knicks to draft him. You know, not everybody's excited that the Knicks. This is not a knock, by the way. I'm being totally serious. Not everybody in the past has been excited that the Knicks. Obviously, they're grateful and happy for the opportunity, but the way that the Knicks had kind of been the last couple of years, not everybody was excited that the Knicks drafted them, and that's kind of why they didn't work out, because they weren't. It kind of goes to whether or not you're really built for this, and I think that's one of the he's a guy that wanted this. He wants this, and it goes into him, you know, wanting to be a part of that moment, like you mentioned, taking that last shot and things like that. I mentioned his shooting mechanics. He's got to work on if he's ever gonna be a consistent 20-25 a game kind of guy, but he's definitely got it. You know, when you talk, I guess what I'm worried about with him is whether or not they'll stick with him with kind of what they've been known to do is chase, you know, try and star chase a little bit. You know, that's your starting two guard right now. I think like I said, I think he's got the intangibles to be the face of your franchise. But with what this is New York. We know you got to have star power here. Do you want to continue to let him develop, or are you willing to replace him right away to get a star?
Knowing the New York Knicks, they're obviously gonna still star chase. That's kind of what the Knicks are. Like you said, it's the Knicks. It's New York. Stars are gonna want to come here. The Knicks are kind of gonna want to chase after them. I think though, it'd be one of those things, and the smart thing for them to do here, to me, it'd be one of those things where like everybody's on the table, maybe besides RJ. He's kind of the one bright young star that you kind of want to keep it and hold on to. So you still go star chase, but you star chase without trying to give up RJ. Now, obviously, I don't know who can come available. If someone like a superstar, especially one that plays his position, becomes available, and I guess RJ is the deal breaker, then maybe. But if I was the Knicks, I'll try to hold on to RJ as much as possible, and then kind of still start chasing free agency. Because with them being better now, those reports that came out too that someone's gonna try to force their way there, or free agency, they have a good chance of getting players now that their franchise is looking more respectable. So yeah, that's what I would do. It would be everyone on the table besides RJ. That's the one player I would kind of try to keep on to here, and then kind of start chase around him or during the off seasons.
I'm about to say something that nobody would ever think that anybody that knows me, including you, would ever say. The Knicks are a piece away.
I don't know.
What I just said is the equivalent to Max Kellerman saying he wants Andre Iguodala with the ball in his hands late in the game. Now, let me clarify what I'm saying, though. When I say they're a piece away, there's one position that they have not been able to get right. That and it's the most important position in basketball because this is like your quarterback, the guy that controls the tempo and everything, and that's point guard. They have been devoid of a point guard for honestly since Chauncey Billups. Chauncey Billups was the last for real though. Like Chauncey Billups was the last reliable. No, excuse me. That's disrespectful. The last reliable point guard they had was actually Jason Kidd. But when they had Jason Kidd, he was not in his prime. Ironically, that's the last time the Knicks made the playoffs and went on a run. No slander, just facts.
Did Felton start that year? Was Felton on the Knicks that year? Raymond Felton?
Raymond Felton came off the bench.
Oh, all right. Well, that's the last time they asked.
He might have started after Jason Kidd was gone, but Jason Kidd was definitely the starter for that Knicks team that lost in the second round in 2014.
All right.
So they have not had a reliable point guard. And that's obviously the position that they're in need of. Obviously they wanted Chris Paul, and what we've seen Chris Paul do with every franchise he's been with, that's clearly it's great that you would want him. They couldn't get it done though. So where do they go now? Well, there were a ton of rumors, and if they get the right point guard in here, they're going to completely unlock this team. They're already scary as it is. But I'm not picking them to go in the finals with the other teams that are in the East right now. But that's a team. The Knicks, if they get a point guard, the right point guard, a guy that's going to be able to control the tempo of the game, speed it up when you need him to, slow it down when you need him to, draw the attention of defenders, to get your shooters opened up. If they can get that guy, this is going to be a team that we consistently talk about competing in the East for years to come with what they currently have in place right now, because they got a lot of young talent.
Yeah, I can see it. I think Tibbs, like you said, is changing things around. But it's the Knicks. It can go either way. They're having a great year this year. Things can go spiraling down. Even after that team that you talked about that went out in the second round, I think that the next year wasn't that good. So it's the Knicks.
Yeah, because they blew it up.
Yeah, it's the Knicks. It could go either way, but hopefully things keep going. And I think they might be. Obviously, every team needs a great point guard. And they also they're hoping for Ja Morant in the draft, but that obviously didn't work out either. So I think they're maybe, I don't know, maybe two pieces away, depending. But it is the Eastern Conference, so I like to call it the Eastern Conference. But those other teams, I guess the Bucks kind of have two stars now with Drew Holiday and Giannis. All those other teams above them kind of have two stars, so they do have some nice players and role players that'd be solid, but I think they might need two.
That's kind of my thing though. Like I think if they stick with RJ Barrett and let that development continue, then him and Julius Randle, those are your guys.
Yeah, that's true. Obviously Julius Randle's having a great year this year, but for me, he's gonna have to make a consistent thing before I kind of put him up there with those stars. Those stars have made it a consistent thing. He's having a very solid year. under his first year with Tibbs, but it hasn't been a consistent thing for him. And obviously, RJ is still young. He's going to grow. He's going to get better. But for them, it's going to be showing more consistency right now before you kind of put them up there thinking that they'll beat one of those teams above them right now.
No, I understand that. And what, like, just to go back, when I say they're a piece away, I'm just noting their right point guard is going to unlock a lot of things for them, because we all know that's what they really have needed. A guy because some people have been down on him, what he's done with the Pelicans, obviously, even with the Lakers as well. A guy I think that we know that they tried to go after, and the rumors are spreading like wildfire that they're going to try and go after in free agency because he's an unrestricted free agent, is Lonzo Ball. I mean, you talk to Knicks fans that really watch the game and watch Lonzo Ball play, they'll probably look at these comments right now and say, no, I don't want him. But I think under the right coaching, because to be honest with you, he's never had that. Under the right coaching, with the skill set he already has, Lonzo Ball could be the exact thing that he could be the medicine that the doctor's prescribing, or what, just doctor's orders type of thing. With his passing ability, exactly what I'm saying, the passing ability and being able to control the tempo of the game. He's not a great defender, but he's not a bad one either. And playing under Tibbs, that can definitely develop. He's got that the one knock on him that's been consistent throughout his whole young career so far, that's still consistent, even though he's shooting about, like, he's been shooting about 33% from three this year, is his aggression. He needs to get more aggressive. That's true, but that could come with time. But I think that because Chris Paul is not realistic. We'll wait to see what happens with Russell Westbrook. He's another guy I always advocate for as far as the point guard, what you want from a point guard. So that's one other guy. But I think Lonzo Ball, for exactly what the Knicks need, excluding the draft, that should be their number one target in free agency this summer.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. He's somebody that they can. It's like you said, it's a realistic option. Chris Paul, with the way Phoenix is going, it's probably not a option. Obviously, I don't know how Knicks fans would feel about having Russell Westbrook trading for that big contract, so that he kind of sucks up some of their salary cap. So I think Lonzo Ball is someone you can get on a nice deal. And like you said, I think his defense has been solid. His three-point shooting is getting better. His passing, we've seen that since he's been on the scene, just to how great of a passing and a point guard he kind of is. So I think, for everything that you were saying that they need someone that's going to be able to control the game, play defense, pass the ball. And if you really believe in R.J. Barrett and Julius Randle like Knicks fans believe, or if you're going to believe that those are going to be the two stars that they go with moving forward, or if they need to get one more, whatever the case is, you're going to want a point guard that's going to get those guys the ball. So that's exactly what Lonzo Ball would bring, someone that's going to get those guys the ball, and then he just has to consistently keep knocking down his three-pointers, and I think he'll be right. He'll be a perfect fit for the Knicks.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, before we move on from the Knicks, I brought this up before, and I got to bring it up again because we got to talk about the Knicks more, man, because every time we talk about the Knicks, people get active in here. So I guess that's got to be a mainstay topic here on the rundown. But I got to bring it up again. Are the Knicks back?
A
win tonight would mean sole possession of fourth place in the Eastern Conference. That's a possible second round team right there.
I am going to say, I'm going to change what I said last time, and I'm going to say the Knicks are back. And I am going to say the Knicks are back for this reason. All they needed to do was have a solid year, and like the report said, someone's going to want to come here. People have been dying to come to New York. Chris Paul said he would have came if there was fans, but he didn't want to play in the Garden with no fans, so it wasn't going to be the same experience. So people are already thinking about coming here after they made those moves and got Worldwide West in there, got Tibbs at the coach and stuff. So now that happened, and now you see that, okay, they're having a great season and they're starting to turn things around, I think people are just going to want to go there. Now it's up to the Knicks to do the right thing and kind of, I guess no one knew how the Melo thing was going to turn out, but not kind of keep the pieces that they have and kind of build around it and get people to come there without panicking and kind of trading everything and, like you said, star chasing and doing things like that. So I think they are back in the sense that they are a team that people are going to want to go to again. And since that's the case, we know they're going to be able to get a star. It's just a matter of time now. So they are back. They're back on people's radar, so they're back.
No, they even got Stephen A. Smith turning into a fanboy over on ESPN with First Take all of a sudden. I haven't seen that in years, so that's very cool. Let's move. Yeah, I don't even have to say it. I've been on it. Knicks fans, I got your back. Kayson on just jumping on the bandwagon. I've been said y'all back though. But anyway, let's jump over to everybody else's other favorite team here in New York. Let's go over the bridge. The Brooklyn Nets, who, we talked a little bit about. No, we didn't actually. We talked about the game heading in tonight. Not tonight, but at the time with Philadelphia. They kind of punted that one away after coming down late. Not even down late. They just chose not to play certain guys, and give up first place in the East, because basically in their minds they didn't really care. As long as they got their guys, they'll be all right. But here's the problem: they don't have their guys. James Harden re-aggravated his injury in a workout, so he's going to be out a while longer. And the playoffs are coming up, by the way. Kevin Durant got hurt in his second game or third game back. They expect him to play this weekend, however. Kyrie Irving's been holding down the fort. Blake Griffin's been doing his thing. We already talked about how LaMarcus Aldridge has decided to retire from the game. I mean, if they don't have their big three, they're not coming out of the East. And I mean, like, they need all three. Like, if James Harden and Kyrie Irving are leading the way and there's no Kevin Durant, I am not picking them to come out of the East. I do not care. As great as they've looked in the regular season, I've seen enough sample size from those guys with other teams that tells me they can look great all they want. But when it comes playoff time, those guys have shown me that they are not the ones to anchor you to the top. They need Kevin Durant. So if these three guys can't stay healthy, then they are not coming out of the Eastern Conference. So Kayson, in Brooklyn, with these injuries that have consistently happened all year, and you don't even have the first seed in the East, do we have a problem?
Yes, Brooklyn, we do have a problem. I just think about all this goes back to kind of what I was saying last week. It may turn out to be one of those things where, like, injuries kind of hold them back and they can never get things right. Excuse me. If you just look at how their season's been going, especially kind of since the James Harden trade, and maybe even a little bit before that, things just kind of haven't been going right for them. You think about Spencer Dinwiddie goes down in maybe the third or fourth game of the season. Things didn't start off too well. You make the trade for Harden. He plays 3 games with them. Kevin Durant goes down. Things start to seem like it's turning around. KD misses a lot of time. KD finally comes back today. KD comes back. Harden's gone. KD plays 3 games, gets injured again. So I was kind of saying last week that that's kind of, it might be one of those things where, like, they try to stack the decks and the basketball gods are just against them, and everything that can go wrong will go wrong, and that just seems like what's kind of going for them here. And eventually, I think the playoffs start in about a month now. Eventually, they might just not have enough time together where they might get into a playoff series against the Sixers, who've been playing together for most of the year, or against the Bucks, who've been playing together for a couple of years now. And they might just get beat for the fact that team knows each other a little more. And these guys kind of haven't been able to be on the court enough together. So I think that is the issue now, because even with the injury, I guess Katie's supposed to be back this weekend. But I've seen some people thinking maybe you hold him now to the playoffs and just make sure he's ready to play by the playoffs. So they have a lot of things they need to figure out. But I think they have a problem for the fact that it just seems like everything is going against them right now. We talked about LaMarcus Aldridge ended up retiring after you get him. So things just haven't been going right for them, and it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. And I think the basketball guys are kind of mad at them for trying to stack the decks, and things just might not work out for them.
Is this 04 Lakers 2.0?
In a sense, yeah, that's kind of. But that Lakers team was still able to get to the finals. But yeah, it maybe just be one of those type of things where it's just like, the basketball gods are angry. It's KD's second time doing something like this. It's like we let you get away with it the first time. The second time, slow your roll, KD. So they're not liking what he's doing. So it could be one of those things. And then maybe, they take the summer to regroup. They're going to have those 3 guys under contract, and I think they can come back stronger next season. But right now, it just doesn't seem like things are on their side right now. Obviously, anything can turn around. The KD thing, like you said, he'll be back this weekend, so it's not as bad as people thought it was gonna be. So that's good. But James Harden just had that setback, so he was supposed to be back soon. Now he had a setback. He might not be ready until like playoff time. So they got a lot of things that's just not going their way.
Yeah, I mean, and all you talk about basketball gods and everything. Usually, when it comes to super teams, for like 99% of them anyway, out that 1% is the Warriors, but that's a little different because it was the same team, and all you did was move Harrison Barnes and add KD.
But
But
even
for the
think about the way they ended. They ended with half of those guys getting hurt. So like eventually the basketball guys caught up with them. Like obviously
but
they were
that's
too talented to be
with
like
them
ah.
with that, and I mean that last year they were just going nuts. Like they added former all stars and everything. Like it was a little too. What they were doing was a little too. Well, they already did too much, but they were doing too much on top of too much. But that what happened to them is normal. That usually happens when you're consistently playing in the finals for 4 or 5 years. Like you're playing from October into June for 4 years straight. You're gonna get hurt eventually. So that wasn't, as far as they go, that
I
wasn't
would
too shocking.
I would say maybe lose but hurt. I don't think like playing that long eventually like you're gonna lose or something's gonna catch up with you. Or maybe one injury or something. They
Look at
had
what happened.
KD
Like
go down, then they had Clay go down in like back to back games. I think that's kinda like even like that's just like saying LeBron played in 10 finals, so eventually he should have been hurt.
LeBron's the Terminator though. Well, I did no, he's not the Terminator. Kawhi's the Terminator. But LeBron's like a cyborg. You know, like he's a little different. This guy, like I don't you if you watch the I Am Athlete podcast, they had Dwayne Wade on there, and they were asking Dwayne Wade like what it's like playing with LeBron and what makes him so different, and like they just went like he just went like that, like you know, like that guy upstairs, like he just gifted him with so much, like. You roll your ankle as a basketball player, you sitting out for a little bit. LeBron rolls his ankle, he stretches out, and he's back on the court. You know what I mean? So that's a little. He's I don't know if he's the greatest example.
I don't know, but I think eventually, like maybe losing catches up with you, or the team breaks up, or something like that. That's usually the cases right there. But to have someone tear their Achilles and to have someone tear their ACL, I think that's kind of extreme. I don't know if it's like
When everybody's dealt with injuries though, like look at like I think what the reason why the Bulls were able to three-peat twice was because they had the hiatus in between. But even with that, like Scotty dealt with injuries, like because he was the one guy that was there throughout those more than the 6 years that they won the championships. He never took a break. Like he had back issues and whatnot. Like that's the type of stuff that comes with consistently playing all the way into June, July.
possibly. But I don't know because that like yes, eventually maybe injuries catch up with you, but to tear your AC, to have someone tear their Achilles and ACL are kind of like two serious injuries. Obviously, Scotty was dealing with his back, which is kind of serious too. But I don't know. I just felt like the basketball guys were a little angry at them there, and they were like, nah. It caught up with them eventually. Obviously,
Caught up with KD.
it caught up with Clay too.
Yeah,
Clay's hurt
true.
again. Unfortunately, that's not funny, but yeah, Clay's hurt again. So.
Prayers go out to Scottie Pippen. By the way, his oldest son Antron passed away a few days ago. So we here at the Rundown sends our thoughts and prayers to him and his family in these troubling times. I mean, I guess the point I was making though with the Nets about like super teams and things, you know, majority of the time, you know, they have setbacks that they usually don't win it the first year together, and then that second year they come through and they win it. That might be the case with the Nets. Like they might deliver New York its first championship since 1972, you know, but like it might not be this year though. They might, you know, have to take a little L this year and then come back and regroup.
Yeah, that's how it's kind of looking. Like I said, everything just seems like it's not working out for him this year. Obviously, we know it's not going to be from the lack of talent. It might just be from the lack of time together, all these injuries piling up. And who's to say that the injuries don't stop when the playoffs come? So they might be dealing with, some injuries in a couple of those series, which is definitely not going to work out for them.
Right, right. Uh, let's. How about these L.A. Clippers, man? They rallied last night, to come through with a nice win. And now, well, I thought it was 8-0, but I think you said there was one loss in between there. But still, nonetheless, for the most part, they have not lost since acquiring Rajon Rondo. And I mean, I thought that was he was really the missing ingredient for the Clippers. That leader, not just a point guard, but that leader that they were looking for this whole time. And I believe they're third in the Western Conference right now. How scary are these Clippers going to be looking? Kawhi's out right now, but he'll be back soon. Like, are they finally going? And it's funny. The announcer mentioned this. They've been in the playoffs for the better part of the last decade between Lob City and then that group that Doc had before they acquired Kawhi and Paul George. They've been in the playoffs for the better part of this last decade. Are they finally going to make it to a conference finals and get that NBA championship that they so seek?
I think so. Obviously, last year they were supposed to be there. They were one game away, and Rondo. Obviously, we seen what he was able to do when he came back in the playoffs last year, and how he helped the Lakers kind of get to the finals and win a championship. I think he's going to do more of the same here. I think he's coming off the bench for the Clippers, but we've been screaming. Everyone's been screaming. It has not been a secret that they needed a point guard. They needed a leader over there. There's been rumors that Kawhi has been complaining about getting one. He's dying for a point guard. We've seen how PG talk about handling the point guard, thing, like doing point guard things, and have to handle being the point guard and still trying to score. So now it gets him and Kawhi back to not having to worry about being the point guard and just going back to worry about scoring. So it puts them back where they need to be and takes less pressure off of them. So I think it should be now. A lot of people picked them to win last year. Before we seen how good the Lakers was going, when they first put that team together, we're like, oh, the Clippers should definitely be the one to win it. I think this year definitely has to be it. They have everything, and they might have a little luck on their side. AD's obviously coming back tonight or tomorrow, whenever their next game may be. But the Lakers might not be 100%. So the Lakers might not even have to go through the Lakers. Or even if they do have to go through the Lakers, they might not be 100%. So this is the perfect opportunity for them. They got the point guard. They got their guys in the right position that they want them in back to being scorers. And their big brother Lakers might not be in the way. So obviously the Jazz are having a good year. The Suns are having a good year. But when it comes down to playoff time with Kawhi and PG over there, what we talked about though when they came together is how crazy defensively they should be together. So I think they should be able to stop a Devin Booker or CP duo or Donovan Mitchell and things like that. So I think they should definitely be the favorite right now, especially with how great they look with Rondo over there. And then that's just regular Rondo. When playoff time comes, he turns into playoff Rondo. So expect him to take it up to another notch anyway. So if he's going to take it up to another notch from where they are right now, I think they should definitely be the favorite. From the unknowns that we know from the Lakers right now.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Anthony Davis. That was the other thing we were going to get into tonight too. I mean, they've got everything in place. Their only big injury that they're dealing with right now is Kawhi, but I think they'll be all right. I think he'll be all right. Playoff. I got into not really an argument, just a little thing with someone. Playoff Rondo is a real thing because he's a brilliant basketball mind, and in a series, you're giving him time to prep for you on different occasions. That's what makes him so great. Like, he is a key piece in the Lakers winning a championship a year ago. Like, it's crazy to me that they even let him walk. You know what I mean? I think that him not being with the Lakers is going to be something that hurts them a little bit. I want to see the Lakers and the Clippers duel, match. I would rather see it in the Western Conference Finals. If possible, if the Lakers fall to 6, that we could see that beforehand. But I mean, I don't know, man. I think this might be the Clippers' year. It could be. I'm saying it right now. Clippers, Philly, NBA Finals. It's gonna be fire.
I could see it. It could be their year. like I said, things are kind of going right for them. We don't kind of know how the Lakers are going to plan out, and even if they do get back in time, it could be something like I was saying back with the Nets. They're going to have to hit the ground running right away, and they may take some time with all the kind of injuries and people being in and out, and LeBron's going to have to get back fully healthy. We don't know how AD is going to come back. We've seen KD try to come back from kind of the same thing, so we hope he's 100% healthy. So the Lakers have some things that they kind of need to figure out. So I could see it being Clippers versus 76ers finals. Obviously, a lot of people were thinking it was going to be the Lakers versus Nets, but I think the Clippers 76ers will kind of be the next best thing.
Yeah, I mean, you get to see that next guard of young guys over what they're doing in Philly. Take that next step. I really do think this is Philly's time this year to do it. I'm just get out of the East anyway, because they've arguably been the most talented team in the East the last couple of years, and they fell short the last couple of years. But I'll say this, man, I still don't believe in Utah. I think that they got a very good talent over there. Quinn Snyder's a great coach. He's doing a lot more with, not that they don't have a talented team, but they don't have the talent the likes of some of these other teams. So what they've been able to accomplish so far, he's doing a lot more with what he has. But I don't, and it's hard anytime from, if you watch the history and people who have been there, they'll say it is hard as an opposing team to play in Utah. But I just don't believe in Utah as a one seed. I could see them getting knocked out in this, depending on who they play. I could see them getting knocked out in the first or second round.
I think they'll be able to get through the first round. I think obviously I don't believe in them either.
No. All apologies in order to Steph Curry. I had to say that because you're talking about who they might play in the
I was gonna say that since you said that, he's been on the tear. He might have heard you.
He might have, man. I woke in a sleeping giant. This dude is playing. He's playing. He might be playing better than he played in the MVP season, man. Yo, I apologize. If Golden State might be able to do it the way Steph Curry's looking right now, he's about to lead them to he's doing exactly what I said he couldn't do. He might get them in.
It's possible, because if you looked at that 76ers game, Steph Curry almost ran Joel Embiid off the court defensively. Because if you see how they're guarding the pick and roll, I guess they didn't want to trap him coming off the pick and roll, so they had Joel Embiid stand back, and obviously for Steph Curry, that's too far back. And then with Rudy Gobert, you think it's probably going to be the same thing. If he comes up too close, they're either going to call an ISO and let Steph go to work, or they're going to do that little dump off the Draymond that he used to like to do, or he has to fall back and let Steph keep shooting that shot like the Sixers decided. So I could see the Jazz having some problems, and then obviously in that series is going to come down to Steph Curry versus Donovan Mitchell. So
I'm taking Steph Curry.
I can see the Jazz having some problems in that series.
That would be ironic too. That'd be like, you remember the We Believe Warriors when they knocked off was it Dallas?
Yeah.
That'd be something.
The only thing is, defensively, they got to find someone to stop Donovan Mitchell. But I guess it's the same thing with Stephen Curry. So it's got to be another one of those series like we got last year with the Jazz, where like it might be Donovan drop 50, Steph drop 50, Donovan drop 50, and it could come down to the last shot. So. I don't believe in them as maybe a championship contender. I think, like you said, they don't maybe have the star power, and I think also in the series, those guys have two guys. Most of those other teams kind of have two guys who can be that star and kind of take over the game. The Jazz have one in Donovan Mitchell, and I think teams are going to be able to draw up a game plan for him. And they have a star on the defensive end, Rudy Gobert, but I think also a team's going to be able to draw up a game plan to maybe try to get him off the court and kind of maybe space him out and take him out of the paint and things like that. So I think the Jazz are maybe, I don't want to say easy to figure out, but I think they have some floors that can be figured out for some of those kind of contending teams where like in the opposite, the Jazz end up going against the Clippers. They have to figure out how to stop Kawhi or possibly PG if he shows up. Who knows with him? PG may shoot himself out of the game. So they have to figure out kind of how to stop two guys on the wing, where the Clippers only be trying to figure out how to stop one guy, and then their other star on the defensive end, they can maybe figure out a way to take him out the game too. So there's a possible you can take both Jazz stars kind of out of the game, which is why I feel like they're gonna have some trouble.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. Like I said, man. I apologize. Steph Curry is not an argument. You are the greatest shooter of all time, and I apologize for ever doubting you about not leading a team. You are about to do it now. You are about to lead your team to the playoffs. Kudos to you. You did it. It
And
was a great duel. It was great seeing Curry versus Curry yesterday.
in your defense, though, he'll be leading them in. If it wasn't a play-in year, he might have not led them to the playoffs. So,
That's true.
in your defense, maybe he got away by the rules changing a little bit, but obviously he's shooting out of his mind, so he deserves a lot of credit for that.
He's still making me look very foolish right now, though. So it doesn't make me feel any better. I'm glad that we chose not to post that clip on any of the social media, so people can just go to it. You know, maybe they'll do it on the YouTube, but that's fine. But yeah.
Well, if anything, he should be thanking you because
I wasn't the only one who said it.
the Warriors fans should be thanking you. Someone should be thanking you because everyone should be thanking you, honestly, because we might have not have gotten this performance if he wasn't doubting the man.
And I've been down that man for a long time. As far as leading goes, that's all I said. You know what I said? That's all I ever said was him leading when he had to do it, leading a team the way Harden and Westbrook have done it, because we never saw that before. But hey, it's the first time he's been durable. It's the first time he might do it. Shout out to you, man, and I apologize for ever doubting you. You are making me look very dumb.
I mean, he possibly could still show us more because Russ was ever to lead a team to the 6th seed. Harden led a team to higher than the play-in. Yeah. Well, nah, he had Chris Paul the year.
But he had CP3. Yeah, but he led them to a conference finals on top of getting them into the playoffs.
Yeah, I think they were like the 3 seed there. And Jesus Christ, I don't know if y'all remember those 2 games in Golden State. Harden was killing the Warriors. So you almost let them. I mean, if they can pull out one of those wins, the series might look a lot different. So
if Utah holds down 1 and Golden State comes in at 8, I'm taking. Write it down. You post it. Write it down. The Golden State I feel like Charles Barkley. Guaranteed. The Golden State Warriors are making it to the second round of the playoffs.
Ooh, how many games?
7.
They got to do it in 6.
Because I think he'll be all right, man. Steph Curry, we talking about. He'll be all right.
Game 7 in Utah, where Utah is the top seed.
He'll be all right.
He's
gonna make everybody, because you know how like Max Kellerman likes to go at him too, as far as like how clutch he is and him not being clutch in those key moments. Like he about to prove us all wrong. It ain't gonna be just me.
It would have to be 6. They can't go back, and we're about to start getting fans back in the stadiums. Fans, it will at least be at like 25% capacity for playoffs. Nah, I can't. It got to be at 6. It got that. I don't know. We don't know how the Chase Center is, but we know how that Oracle used to get. At Game 6, yeah. At Game 7 in Utah, I don't know.
I think it's gonna go 7, man, and I think Curry gonna show out in Utah.
If it goes 7, I would have to take the Jazz.
All right, we can bet on it when it comes time to it. But I'm a believer. I am a believer. But wise man once said, "When the facts change, so do my opinion."
But even if they don't end up playing the Warriors, there's a high chance they could end up with the Mavericks, which won't be a walkover either. So they could have some issues either way.
Yeah, I might take the Mavericks to knock them off first round too.
Nobody respect the Jazz, man. This is crazy. I don't know. I would have to wait and see how it goes. But any Game 7 they get into against the lower seeds, like an 8th seed, I'm definitely taking the Jazz. But unfortunately for the Jazz, Donovan Mitchell has gone down, and the Suns are right on their heels.
He'll be back though.
Yeah, but the Suns are right on their heels, so they could end up dropping to like the 2nd seed.
Well, if they play one of those 2 teams in the first round, I'm going with one of those 2 teams over them, regardless of where they are.
All right, let me ask you a question. Who would they have to play in the first round for you to pick them over them? Because it's possible they can get Portland. I'm pretty sure you're going to take Portland.
No. Portland's been dealing with stuff too. Like, is it Dame hurt right now? Dame, Dame didn't play. Dame didn't play last. Dame was on the sidelines. He didn't play last night.
Well, obviously they'll probably be 100%.
Was Collison or Collins? They're forward, or you might be.
Zach Collins. Yeah, Zach Collins.
Yeah, he's not playing right now. He's a big piece in what they do. Nah, I might take Utah over Portland. I would take them over San Antonio. Still in the mix. I would take them over San Antonio.
All right, you probably take them over San Antonio, Memphis maybe, Memphis probably, and that's it. I
Memphis think making sweat though. Jaren Jackson's playing tonight. Memphis is making sweat.
Yeah, I think if Portland is obviously if Dame's healthy, Portland might give them. I might take Portland.
Yeah, because Dame be when it's Dame time, it's scary hours.
Don't forget about CJ, man. Don't forget about CJ.
Oh yeah, that's a great backcourt.
The Blazers.
CJ was the reason they went to the Western Conference Finals. Let's be real.
He won them that Nugget series. He won them that Nugget series in straight pick and rolls. The Nuggets could not stop him in pick and rolls.
And mid range. He was killing them with straight mid range shots.
Yes, don't forget about CJ. I think, and then you still got Melo. You still got all those shooters over there.
Melo should have never got rid of the braids, man. Melo looking like vintage Melo with those braids, man.
So I think the Jazz would. I mean, I think the Blazers would give them more of a problem than the Warriors would.
All right. I don't know about that. I think Steph Curry. You know what's crazy? Dame and Steph Curry really aren't that different of players. It's just that Steph Curry, everything Dame does, Steph Curry does better.
And Steph Curry did it first, so he's kind of like the original. And Dame is kind of came after. Anyway, I think the Blazers have more firepower when it comes down to it. So obviously, if the Blazers, we know Snyder's a good defensive coach. If he can figure out a way to slow Steph Curry down, or if Steph Curry doesn't have a good playoff series, the Warriors are in a lot of trouble. But if they slow down Dame, there's still CJ. There's still Melo. I guess those other guys are more shooters who can, I wouldn't say that they're going to take over a game or something. But there's those still guys you have to worry about on the court. So I think they have more firepower that would worry the Jazz more in a series, especially if the Blazers decide to go small and put Covington at the 5 like the Rockets were doing. And what I was saying before, get Rudy Gobert at that paint, and they're going to be stretching the floor. There's going to be a lot of open threes, or they're going to have to get Gobert off the court.
They might run him off the court. They legitimately might run him off the court.
And that causes another problem for them because a lot of things that they're doing is based off Gobert being on the court for being that defensive player. So the Blazers can cause them a lot of problems. So I think the Blazers will give them more of a fit than the Warriors.
Well, I just can't wait for this thing to shape out. But Warriors, I believe in you. You guys are gonna go on a short little run here in the playoffs if you guys play the Utah Jazz. And yeah, Lakers. Are they letting Anthony Davis come back too soon, given his injury and the similarities with KD's injury that led to him tearing his Achilles?
I don't think so. AD's been out for a while. It's been a couple months now. I think a report came out today saying that he said he feels 100% healthy. So if that's the case, you kind of have to put him out there. But I think they've been extra cautious with him already. You think KD missed maybe only 6 weeks. AD's maybe going on 2 to 3 months, which I guess 6 weeks is kind of close to 2 to 3 months. But AD's going on 2 months, 2.5 months. So he's missed more time. So I think not really. I think he's been gone long enough.
All right. Well, we got a question here from Adia R. How far do we think the Knicks are gonna go? Well, if the Knicks get 4 seed, they get home court advantage in the first round. They would play the Atlanta Hawks, who they're actually playing right now. I don't have that game on, so I don't know the score. I'll check it though. The Knicks are gonna go to the second round in the Eastern Conference playoffs this year.
If things stay how it is, then yes. If they're going to be the 4 seed with home court advantage, with fans probably being back in there by the time the playoffs start.
Oh, and they did. Oh, it's disgusting. The Madison Square Garden in the playoffs. I don't think you talk to people who have been in Madison Square Garden for the playoffs. I don't think even if it's not at full capacity, it's gonna. Oh my God, that's gonna be scary.
Yeah, and if they play a team like the Hawks, I definitely see them getting to the second round, and then if the Knicks can maybe sneak back up there and grab that one seed, you can maybe get the Knicks versus Nets. But the second round is probably their ceiling.
Yeah, I take that too. They're losing. They're down by. They're down. The Nets actually just beat. No, the Nets lost to the Raptors. Excuse me. Kyrie Irving had a great game, but not enough. And then the Knicks are down 2 to the Atlanta Hawks right now at halftime. So maybe we'll get a little RJ Barrett second half magic again.
Maybe, hopefully. But if they can stay where they're at, even if they fall to 5 and they end up playing the Hawks, I think they could probably beat the Hawks without home court advantage. It's just still one in Atlanta, and that's it. Like you said, that New York crowd in the playoffs. I think if it comes down to if they still won in Atlanta, I think they'll probably end up going up 3-1. If not, if it comes down to like a game 5 and they still won in Atlanta and then they go home for a game 6 to close it out, I can see them taking it.
I might have a little bit of breaking news right now. I want to double check. Maybe I shouldn't have jumped the gun on that. I want to double check. The Bulls just lost. I don't know if they're tied with they were tied with the Wizards yesterday for the last.
The Wizards are playing the Warriors right now, but they're down.
Okay, so maybe it's a moot point. But they might get the Wizards into the play. Oh yeah, they're gonna lose. All right, never mind. I don't have breaking news.
Well, they still could win, but if they win, they can be in the 10th seed. They're back in. It's breaking news that they're back in for a chance to get into the playoffs because they were pretty down bad this season. So they're basically tied for the 10th seed. So breaking news: the Wizards might get in, and if I'm any. Obviously not the top teams, but if I'm one of the 7, 6, or any teams that have to play in the play-in, I don't want to see the Wizards because that is a team that can sneak their way up to 8.
I think the one team that's not scared of the Wizards that's in that spot right now is Miami.
I didn't know Miami was in that spot, but also with the way Miami season has been going, they've dealt with a lot of help. They've had all year. They haven't been able to put their best lineup out there, their best rotation out there because they've dealt with injuries all year. You know who I really feel for because he's been back to playing at the level he was a year ago is Kendrick Nunn. The only reason Kendrick Nunn's back in the rotation right now is because Victor Oladipo is out. He might actually get his starting spot back because we don't know if Victor Oladipo is going to be able to get back to 100% to play moving forward. But it kind of makes me wonder because I'm pretty sure I said this on the show. Somebody who follows the Heat closely what's that group out there? That Clutch Points. The Heat. There's a group dedicated to the Heat, to Miami sports out there. They do a phenomenal job covering Miami sports, specifically the Miami Heat. That mentioned this. Kendrick Nunn and Victor Oladipo have a lot of similar traits, but at that point in time, Kendrick Nunn was scoring a bit better than Oladipo, but Oladipo was still more of a household name. Thinking back on it now, seeing what because that's his game. He's a scorer. So thinking back on it now, maybe they should have never. It's tough to say because they didn't have to give up anything to get Oladipo, but maybe with what they have in Kendrick Nunn, and he's a younger commodity at that as well. Maybe they should have never even made that trade. Maybe, but like you said, they didn't have to give up too much, and also this was just a. Kind of like a trial period for Oladipo. You know, the rumors been out there that he wanted to come to Miami and he wanted to play in Miami. So there was a chance they might have signed him in the summer and maybe ended up giving him a bigger contract than maybe he deserves. So now you get him for a trial, and then you can maybe sign him to maybe a cheaper contract after you see kind of how he was. If not, you can still trade him and maybe get something for him. So I think it may be maybe a little too early right now. If they would have gave up a little more, maybe, but like you said, they didn't have to give up too much. So you take the chance, and then you kind of go from there. And also, like, we know Oladipo's dealt with some injuries and stuff like that. If he can get back to 100%,
Well, he looked great when he got to Miami. He looked very good, like that, like the player that he was, very close to the player he was in Indiana back when he got to Miami. But he just hurt now, so he hasn't been able to play. But again, Kendrick Nunn is showing you just as good as production as he did a year ago, and they're very simple. Kendrick Nunn's fate with the Miami Heat seems tied to what happens with Victor Oladipo right now. If they're bringing Oladipo back, some team is going to be happy to get Kendrick Nunn's services, because it doesn't appear he's going to be he's going to be able to get in that rotation with the Heat, because they're going to off the bench, they're going to opt with Hero every time.
Yeah, well, it's a good problem to have either way. Like I said, you still, if you have to trade one of them, you still can probably end up getting something for them, maybe more than what they kind of gave up. So it's a good problem to have. So if they do have to give up Kendrick Nunn, you might be able to get something back that was better than kind of what you gave up for Oladipo. So it's a good problem to have at the end of the day.
They've got a few good problems over there, man, between having Iguodala over there along with
Ariza?
with Trevor Ariza. And then you also got Precious Achiuwa, who's a rookie right now, kind of stuck in that spot fighting for minutes with those two as well. Then you bring in Dwayne Dedman, who, him and Bam don't seem like they've played the best together. Shout out to Bam Adebayo too, man. That dude that's a cornerstone for that franchise right now. Put Kyrie, you were at that game. Put Kyrie Irving on clamps the other night.
I was at that game. KD got injured. Let me tell you about the experience. KD, the game starts. KD comes down, hits a three. He comes down off a screen between the legs, hits a three. Comes down, gets fouled, misses 2 free throws. I look up while he's shooting free throws, going for his 8th point of the game, and it's only been a minute and 30 seconds passed in the game. So he has 8 points, and it's only been a minute and 30 seconds. Comes down the court, he blocks Nunn, comes back down the court, doesn't move over Iguodala. They call a timeout. He's out of the game. It's like 3 minutes into the game, he had 8 points.
KD might be the greatest scorer the game's ever seen, man. For his stature, being a 7-footer and be able to do the things he does, like he's one of the best we've ever seen.
I never forget. I looked up. He had 8 points and then only a minute and 30 seconds passed. It was 10:30 on the clock.
That's KD like stuff.
Ridiculous.
You got anything else before we get out of here, man?
Nah, I think that's it for this week.
Yeah, definitely. Shout out to Mike Poeta, who became the next head coach of the Fighting Illini wrestling team after longtime head coach Jim Heffernan decided to retire. That's prodigal son. I said it on my Instagram as well as my Facebook. That's prodigal son stuff right there. He's one of the greatest wrestlers to never win a national title. This dude had to go through a stud in back-to-back national finals between Jordan Lean and then Jordan Burroughs, who ended up being a multiple-time champ and an Olympic gold medalist. So shout out to him. That's great to see, a former product of the program now take over. Shout out on the basketball tip, Speedy Claxton, next head coach of the Hofstra Pride.
Interesting. I think I did see you post that. So shout out to both of them. And the Wizards are now only down 4 with 3 minutes left. So
I got to stop doubting them.
He just ended it. Bill just got an and 1, so they're down now 1 with almost 3 minutes to go. So see how that
goes. Got to stop doubting those Washington Wizards, man. They just got no quit him. Scott Brooks should still lose his job regardless of what happens, though.
Probably. It depends on what happens with Beal this summer. If Beal ends up leaving, I think Scott Brooks and Westbrook are out of there. But if Beal likes kind of how things ended and things are going, then I think they're running back with the same team. They're
definitely gonna have a conversation, and Scott, the Wizards and Bradley Beal are going to have a conversation. Scott Brooks is going to be mentioned in those conversations.
That's why I said if he kind of likes how it's going, he'll end
but
up
he could
staying.
if Scott Brooks gets fired, like that could be a product of Bradley Beal wanting a better coach in there too.
Yeah, possibly, but I think like I said, that's why I said if he likes how it's going. I think it'll probably end up staying because I feel like Westbrook and Scott Brooks are kind of tied in there together in a sense right now.
But those guys said they love playing with, like, Bradley Beal's done nothing but rave about Westbrook at this point. Like, he kind of threw a little shade at John Wall. Didn't he say, like, that's the best point, like, he's the best point guard best teammate he's ever played with?
Yeah, I don't think there's no shade to John Wall. I think a lot of people, when the trade went down, said that it was an upgrade. I think that being an upgrade it's kind of just back in that we knew that Westbrook was kind of the better player. So
Right.
I don't think that's. I mean, obviously John Wall's gonna feel some type of way, but I don't think him saying that's an like shade towards John Wall because like a lot of people agree that Westbrook's the better player. So it's not like it's not throwing no shade. It's kind of fact.
Right. Jalen Suggs, man, we over here about to wrap up and we bringing more stuff into the show. Jalen Suggs declared for the NBA draft recently. I just want to harp back on that point, man. I think the Rockets are a lot closer to being a good team again than anything. Between you got Kenyon Martin Jr., Christian Woods, and a lot of the other pieces over there. I think Jalen Suggs has to be if unless they have if you got the number 1 pick, you have to take Cade Cunningham. But if they end up with the 2nd pick or the 3rd pick and he's available, like Jalen Suggs has to be the guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if he's the guy, especially with him hitting that shot and kind of how the tournament the run went for them. I mean, kind of the whole season. I wouldn't be surprised. Obviously, they need a new two guard with James being out, but they also
it might be. They were talking. He was on the jump, and they were talking about him kind of assuming the point guard role over there,
which would be even better for him because then I was about to
because he could be playing with Kevin Porter Jr. too.
Yeah, I was about to bring.
That's a great backcourt to have.
Yeah, so I think he'll definitely be the pick right now, and from what we've seen from him in the tournament, he has that star potential and the fear not to take that shot, and that's kind of what they need right now.
Right on. Well, I think that's it. So, yeah, unless there's anything else that's going on, great show today, Kay.
As always, my brother.
For sure, man. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Peace.